Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. The BJP has targeted winning 370 seats in the ongoing Lok Sabha elections. West Bengal and South India are crucial for the BJP if they are to cross 400 seats as part of the NDA. West Bengal will see polling in 3 seats and Karnataka 14 seats. Now Kerala, which sees polling for all 20 seats, is the only one of India's major states where the BJP has never won a Lok Sabha seat. It's seen a steady rise in its voter percentage though. But in West Bengal, out of the 42 Lok Sabha constituencies in 2019, the BJP won 18 seats. Karnataka has 28 seats, out of which the BJP won 25 in 2019. This time the BJP is contesting on 25 seats. Its ally, the JDS, is fighting on 3. How's the party doing on the ground? And to talk about this, our 2 reporters, Kiran, Tare and Vaji, have been touring West Bengal and Karnataka to tell us about ground zero. And of course, in the studio, I have with me my colleague, Ashok Bagariya. Before I start with Kiran and Vaji, I want to start with you, Ashok. 20 years since that original sin of calling the elections 6 months ahead of time. The India shining moment, it's the voters that are left out in the shining sun. What a decision that was.
Well, if we look back now, it appears that it was a bad decision.
Right.
And considering the fact that what are we looking at? We are witnessing that the last time around 102 seats went for the polls.
Yes.
And the number of voter turnout was reduced. It fell by almost 4 to 8% in many places.
Right.
Now, after the data came in,
the
Election Commission of India was very concerned.
Right.
And I remember speaking to a few people in the EC. And they said that, look, this idea of having elections in summers is really bad. And this summers is impacting the voter turnout, which is not good for the democracy. Because at the end of the day, if you look, democracy is all about people's participation.
Absolutely.
And the larger the people's participation, the more and more views...
The more robust a democracy is.
The more robust the democracy is, and more views get captured in the polling booths. So they are saying that, look, it's actually a bad idea, but they cannot do anything because the cycle of regular elections, which was till 2004, held in the winter months, was changed. And for the first time in 2004, general elections were held in April. And since 2004, it's been 2 decades now, we've been following the summer cycle of holding general elections. So the winter cycle is gone. But for a country of the size of India, which is almost subcontinental in its size, the best time to go to polls or general elections is winters, which we have followed from 1952 to 2004.
2004. And 2004 was the original sin of holding an election ahead of time. But we'll come to that later. I want to talk to Kiran Tare, who's traveling through West Bengal at the moment. Kiran, and he's just stopped to talk to us. Kiran, tell us what the temperature on the ground is right now in West Bengal, both metaphorically and literally. What's the election? What are the big issues there?
West Bengal is very hot now in both the terms. I mean, the temperature is 42 to 43 degree temperature, 40 degrees Celsius. And of course, the political temperature is also rising. Even for a Mumbaiker like me, it is a very strange scene to see darkness at around 5:30 to 6. It's very strange. But it's very hot. Kolkata is very hot, and where I'm standing now, the Behrampur area, is one of the biggest attractions in this election, because there is a triangular fight between Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, who has been an MP since 5 terms here, the leader of Congress in Lok Sabha, and against him is a very star celebrity cricketer, Yusuf Pathan. Yusuf Pathan contesting on a TMC ticket. And very interestingly, the third one is a very popular surgeon, local popular surgeon, RSS member, who has been pitched by the BJP to take on these 2 giants. So, what the scene here in West Bengal is identical to that. In every constituency, there is a triangular fight between the Congress, either the TMC or the BJP. And interestingly, the BJP and both TMC, they have tried to focus on the minute and micro issues For example, Mamata Banerjee has been banking on Lakshmi Bazar.
Yes.
Lakshmi Bazar is a kit from where the women are given some monetary help. They are given the household things. On the contrary, the BJP has been saying that this is a fight between Narendra Modi and Rahul Gandhi. We don't count Mamata Banerjee. And very interestingly, in Behrampur, where I'm sitting now, people told me that for the first time in the history, that the non-veg shops were closed down on a Mahavir Jayanti. It never happened before. And remember, Behrampur falls in Murshidabad district, where 40 to 45% population is Muslim, and still they are observing Mahavir Jayanti. It's a big shift. There was a stone pelting on the Ram Navami procession here in this particular constituency, that is Behrampur. And that has also polarized the voters. It's a complete division between Hindu voters and the Muslim voters. And people are saying me that this time the division will be more in the Muslim voters because there is TMC and there is Congress. Both are the claimants for the Muslim votes. That is going to have
a division of votes there, yes.
And the BJP inclusion.
But Kiran, quickly before I move to Vaji, where is the left in all of this? I mean, the left used to be the fourth pole in this in these fights. There used to be quadrangular fights. Has the left completely vanished from the whole game now?
Absolutely. It was the left parties ruled the state for 25 years, but now lefts are nowhere. Mamata Banerjee had run such an aggressive campaign that the left parties are completely wiped out from the political scenario in West Bengal. There are several pockets where the left parties are in the race. Someone told me that Tamluk could be a constituency where the left party candidate could show some kind of resistance, some kind of opposition to the BJP and the TMC candidates. But in the overall scenario, the left parties, they have vanished. Earlier, they had a tie-up with the Congress. But now Congress is also.
But now they are completely out of the equation. Now, Vaji, you know, South India is seeing a record heat wave, right? And Bengaluru has seen a water crisis as well. Karnataka goes to the polls in a few days from now. Is this heat wave having an impact on voting, voter turnout, and the mood of the people?
Well, I think the people are now getting used to the heat because right now also if you check the temperature, it's 36 but feels like 38. But if we look into the ground situation of how the people are voting, just a few days back, Tamil Nadu voted and we saw a 4% dip in the vote percentage of 2019 to 2014 in Tamil Nadu. It was 72 in 2019 and it's 69. This time, 68 this time. So you can see that our neighboring state, because of the heat and because of the anti-incumbency that is there, people have not come out to vote. Now, if we look at that situation in Karnataka, most of the poll observers and experts have raised this question against the EC that the date that they have set up for the election is 26th of April, which falls on a Friday, which also coincides with a long weekend. So if you give a date like a Friday which has a long weekend, most of the Bengalurians won't stay in Bangalore. Most of the people will travel. So they believe that there will be a dip again in the voting percentage. But these are the reasons why we can believe that there can be a dip in the voting percentage. But if you see the political temperature of Karnataka, well, it is highly charged because 24/7 we're seeing BJP protesting against the Neha Hiremat murder case. So there are issues that have been picked up regularly, and the way and the volume at which you see protest in Karnataka right now. You have Bijapur, you have Raichur, you have Mandya. You name a district, you will find BJP workers protesting. So they're keeping the political temperature alive.
They're keeping the political temperature alive. I'm going to come to you about that a little while later, Vaji. But, you know, Ashok, this other point that Vaji made, the fact that out of the 7 polling dates, at least half of them are close to a weekend, or either close to a weekend or after a weekend. That's also going to affect voting.
Well, that will impact, but that will impact voting in urban areas.
Right.
Because generally what is seen is that the urban population is seen to be taking the opportunity of a long weekend and moving out of the town for maybe cooler climes. Because considering that the temperatures on the ground are really high, and possibly people want to give elections or voting a pass this time around and head for a holiday to a place which has a cooler climate. So that is one thing which will impact voting percentage in urban areas, but in rural areas it will not have much of an impact. However, what is really happening, or what is what the Election Commission is also thinking at this point in time is that considering this heat on the ground, the rising temperature and the low voting percentage that they witnessed in the last round of polls, they are thinking of either, because there are suggestions which have come from political parties who are saying that you shut down voting between 2 and 4 and possibly extend the time beyond 6 o'clock right up till 8 in the evening, which seems to be a practical suggestion that once the sun goes down, ask people to come out and when the temperatures have gone down, the weather is a little more comfortable than what they have been witnessing during the daytime. So that is a suggestion, but the Election Commission is mulling over it. They have to think about it, whether this suggestion has to be lapped up and maybe some sort of a comfort given to the voters so that they turn out in larger numbers to participate in what I call the festival of democracy.
Festival of democracy, indeed, and marred by the the natural climate, the timing of this festival. Ashok, I mean, to hold it in the peak summer, and you can see Kiran there. He's with a fan on and in the middle of West Bengal. But Kiran, tell us what are the issues that are finding resonance on the ground in West Bengal? Is it the teachers recruitment scam, for instance? It's the atmosphere is supercharged with that. The BJP on the offensive against the TMC. What's the big issue there?
See, here, the corruption is of course an issue, but apart from that, what I could see is the employment is a big issue.
Right.
Both the party supporters, they are blaming each other for neglecting towards the employment generation.
Yes.
It's a state government or it's a central government.
Right.
Again, there is no industries in this particular state. There are 55 lakh Bengalis who are working outside Bengal.
Right.
They are sending money to whatever more they are getting.
Yes.
Earlier it was the money orders, now it's online transfers, but half of the state is surviving on the money receiving from the other states.
Yes.
This is the big issue. There is no or very less employment. There is a wealth distribution in a way where certain pockets of the states are very rich, super rich, filthy rich, and certain pockets are very poor. So this kind of huge gap between the wealth creators and the poor people, this needs to be mended. And who will do that? So everybody is blaming each other. There is no concrete plan. But this time, what I feel that the voters are not happy with the way the politicians are behaving.
Right.
For example, one politician is saying that he will remove all this garibi, and with this garibi hatao is his motto. But he has been saying this since last 50 years.
Right.
Since last 50 years,
yes.
you have been telling about the garibi and the poorness, then the poverty.
Right.
When will it to happen? Voters are not really very interested in all these things. They want a practical solution,
right?
And they will stand for the person who will give a practical solution.
Yeah, stand for the person who will give a practical solution. That's what elections, the festival of democracy, is all about. But Vaji, very different set of issues there in Karnataka, as you were explaining a while earlier. How has the Neha Hiramat murder case, how is that played out across Karnataka? The BJP has used that as an issue to hit the Siddaramaiah government with.
Well, yes, Sandeep, the Neha Hiramat case has now become a prominence, found prominence in the state because it touches the law and order situation of Karnataka. And if we talk about the law and order of Karnataka, right before the Hiramat case, it all started with the Udupi video, viral video case of a video was captured in the toilet. From there, we then saw the Hanuman flag issue. We then saw the Jai Shri Ram issue with the Vidyaranyapura Chikpet area, where the person was slapped because he said he was listening to bhajan. Then we saw Hanuman Chalisa issue. Then we saw a lot of murders. I also, in fact, asked a question to Mr. Randeep Surjewala that don't you think the brand Bangalore image is also turning into bloody Bangalore image, because we've seen violence and at another level altogether. Last 10 days, we've seen close to 10 murders in the city. So the BJP has concentrated have lapped on to this entire issue of the Neha Hiramat and have questioned the law and order situation of Karnataka.
Right.
While if we see the Congress, on the other hand, they are concentrating on the tax devolution issue that they've had, how the center has not given them the money that the state has required. They have questioned the center. So the attack is completely different. One is an attack on the law and order. One is the Congress believes that they are trying to make it criminal. While the Congress, on the other hand, is questioning and is putting a heat on the BJP, saying that it is your own MPs, the 26 MPs of Karnataka that were elected by the people themselves did not go and protest against the government, saying that the state is not receiving funds. So this fight between the Karnataka government and the opposition is something going back. And now what the Karnataka government...
Yes, Vaji, I'm sorry I have to interrupt you. We're totally out of time here. But thanks very much for bringing us up to speed with the issues in Karnataka. Both Kiran and Vaji, in the heat and dust of India's elections 2024. My advice to you is to keep your ORS packets handy, Kiran and Vaji. It's the hottest election on record, possibly, in the middle of electioneering and campaigning and trailing those candidates. While you're at it, keep ORS ready, as Ashok, we are calling it the ORS elections 2024. But thanks very much for joining us. The Mandate 2024 is our series on India's elections, and we'll continue tracking important developments. Watch Vaji and Kiran's reports from the ground. From the heat and dust of electioneering, we move to the weather. Bengaluru has been facing a water crisis for over a month now. But India's IT capital is not alone. All of South India could soon face a water crisis in what could be the hottest summer on record. It's a combination of global warming, unplanned urbanization, and the peculiar geography of the southern states. Watch our story on South India's looming water crisis, the next Bengaluru, only on the News9 Plus app. Canada's new Democratic Party says it will seek official recognition of the 1984 Sikh genocide in the country's parliament. Now, the NDP supports the ruling Liberal Party of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The NDP party leader Jagmeet Singh has said that on the 40th year of the Sikh riots, the Sikh genocide should be recognized at the federal level. Now, this comes from a report by Aniruddha Bhattacharya, the Canada correspondent of the Hindustan Times. And it's interesting because Canada has in the past voted to declare China's treatment of Uyghurs and Russia's invasion of Ukraine as genocide. What does this mean for India? This new listing, this proposed listing of the 1984 anti-Sikh riots as a genocide. Joining me to talk about this are Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta, Pathikrit Payne, and my colleague Aditya Raj Kaul. Aditya, any surprises here? Another surprise from Canada, genocide for the Sikh riots of 1984?
Well, not surprising. This has happened before as well. In the year 2010 last,
yes,
that a Liberal MP had moved such a resolution inside the House of Commons in Canada,
right,
but was rejected.
Right.
Thereafter, in the Ontario legislature,
yes,
this was picked up yet again in 2017. In 2016, Jagmeet Singh had moved it, but it
right,
had failed. But it was recognized in 2017. And
right,
as you would see,
yes,
since 2017, we have had rough ties with Canada.
Yes.
Even during the multiple visits of Justin Trudeau to New Delhi,
yes,
there has been a rough patch between the bilateral ties, which worsened after Justin Trudeau's last visit to
right,
New Delhi during the G20.
Yes.
And this is because the Liberal Party, Justin Trudeau himself,
yes,
has been in bed with the NDP, Jagmeet Singh,
right,
openly espousing the cause of the Khalistani terror groups,
yes,
and protecting terrorists like Hardeep Singh Nijjar and now even Gurupatwant Singh Pannu and Sikhs for Justice.
right.
They haven't acted against them. The question certainly is that why is Justin Trudeau doing so?
Right.
And on the other hand, if at all Jagmeet Singh moves this and this is passed by the House of Commons in Canada,
yes,
this would be certainly the last nail in the coffin in the relations between India and Canada that are already worsened, absolutely, and as of now have not normalized completely.
Absolutely. Ominous words there. Ambassador Gupta, this move by the NDP to call the 1984 Sikh riots is a horrible chapter as it was in India's history. But for another country to declare it a genocide, I mean, how much worse are India-Canada relations going to be after this? As Aditya said, it's possibly going to be the last nail in the coffin of this relationship.
Sandeep, this is absolutely uncalled for. You see, it was unfortunate that these riots happened.
Right.
And the government of India has taken necessary steps inside the country to handle these issues properly.
Right.
And some of the people have also been punished.
Right.
Now, a foreign country passing a resolution calling it genocide has absolutely no locus standi in this matter.
Right.
These countries, if you look at their own history, recently you must have seen when the Queen or the King visited from Britain.
Yes.
When they initially moved to Canada, the Europeans, they actually obliterated all the local Canadians that time, millions of them.
The Native Americans in Canada, yes.
And it took them, several decades, or in fact several hundred years, before they apologized for that.
Right.
Now, these kind of people who have perpetrated crime on the entire humanity, not only in Canada, but also in Australia, also in US, also in the Caribbean and in Mexico, have no legal right to judge the situations in other countries, which is purely domestic. India has a robust constitution, it has a judiciary which is very independent, and it has political parties which are very, very vibrant and very, contesting against each other. So they are all there to talk about these issues. They have taken steps, they have talked about it. Canada has no jurisdiction to pass any resolution of this nature either in the parliament or anywhere else.
Right.
If they do so, I think it is absolutely uncalled for. The government of India, of course, will protest it. But as you know, Prime Minister Trudeau is completely gone insane. If I can use this word, he doesn't know how to handle foreign relations, not only against India, but also with other countries. He is intruding into the domestic affairs of many countries. He directly addressed our farmers when the farmers' agitation was going on. He is actually directly supporting the division of India in terms of Khalistani movement. So these are some of the issues which are absolutely undesirable. But I think, in my view, it would be best for us, apart from protesting it, we give very little coverage to these events. If we ignore them, I think that would be the best and befitting reply to such measures.
Absolutely.
Ignorance and completely, if the press and media can completely ignore them, I think that would be the best response to Canada.
Right. That's an interesting way of looking at it, by ignoring an issue like that. But, it just so happens, Ambassador Gupta, it's being moved by a political party which is supporting the ruling government in Canada. So it's actually an escalation in this entire diplomatic incident, if I might call it that, between India and Canada. But Padikrit, the point that Ambassador Gupta made is that Canada is certainly in no position to judge events like 1984, the Sikh riots, given Canada's own history, colonial history of the annihilation of Aboriginal tribes of North America and, of course, in other parts of the world, in Australia as well. But how do you see this new move? I mean, is this another diplomatic move by Canada to pressurize India? The Cold War that's been going on between India and Canada over the last couple of years, is this the absolute low point in India-Canada relations? What's your take on this?
Sandeep, first of all, elections are due in Canada in the fall of 2025. So for somebody like Trudeau, whose political traction has drastically gone down, I think he would be desperate to continue with the alliance with the NDP, and he knows that if he doesn't agrees to what the NDP says, that without that support, it is difficult for him to come back. Already, chances are very low. I think that this has a lot to do with internal politics, that they actually seek any kind of justice for the Sikh community. The Sikh community is an integral part of India. They have a rich legacy of what they have done for the country in terms of contribution. The same people of NDP and Trudeau's government remain silent when it comes to persecution of the Sikhs in Pakistan and Afghanistan. So that is one story that often gets ignored. The third thing is that, see, Canada lives in the colonial era in terms of its mindset. It finds it difficult to accept that today, when they try to do things like this, they presume that it would impact the world, but it bites more than it can chew. I mean, India's GDP today is twice that of India, or twice that of Canada. So nobody cares two hoots when Canada does these things. But they would still do these things. But let me tell you one thing. I still believe, often Canada is used as a proxy by their immediate neighbor, the big brother there, to do these things, to needle somebody else, who the Americans often would not directly do it. They will do it sometimes, but they use Canada to do it. And Canadians, of course, the entire white man's history is that of loot, plunder, colonial, genocide, destruction of culture. So I think what essentially is required is revision of the history and reforms in the multilateral institutions like the United Nations, which the Prime Minister often talks about. Because they tend to often ignore what essentially should be defined as a genocide. I mean, if you look at the Canadian involvement in the Iraq War, the same Iraq War in which, because of sanctions, 500,000 children in Iraq died because they could not get essential medicines. The Trudeau would remain silent on that. So I think the white man's hypocrisy has got exposed today. In spite of everything, the Canadians will still plead for a trade deal or a trade agreement. I think
absolutely. And Pathikrit, the white man's hypocrisy indeed, as you called it out there. But Aditya, the point that Ambassador Gupta made was that to ignore this and, it'll pass. But can you ignore something as drastic as this when you're calling for, a particular act to be called a genocide? I mean, that's like trying to internationally shame you, picking up an event, a very, very tragic, unfortunate event that happened in our history, picking it up, trying to shame you globally with that kind of event. How should the government of India react?
Sandeep, you could ignore Sikhs for Justice. You could ignore Gurbhatwant Singh Pannu. He's a one-man army. Or perhaps he's in touch, many say, with the CIA desk officer getting paid to do what he's doing. And just like Pathikrit also mentioned, the American intelligence is known to use Canada and perhaps some other countries of the Five Eyes to, in fact, needle India. This is not new. This has happened for years, for perhaps decades together. We have former RNAW officers looking at how UK, how Australia in the past have done the same, but more so in US and Canada. But a political party, that too a political party in power with Justin Trudeau, openly espousing separatism in India, openly interfering in the internal affairs of India, openly disrespecting the sovereignty of India, really is uncalled for. It isn't something that India can take lightly. India certainly cannot look the other way. Even a country like China would react to it. So I think India, which firmly believes in the democratic principles and rules of engagement, rules of bilateral ties and Vienna Convention, would expect Canada to explain its situation. I would expect India to, in fact, not only protest this and perhaps release a statement, but also summon the envoy and say that why a person who's in the government is indulging in such activities. Because in this particular case, during the Vaisakhi festival, during the weekend, in Surrey of British Columbia, Jagmeet Singh visited the Sikh community, which was peacefully celebrating along with a lot of Indian diaspora. And suddenly he comes to the table, he almost inaugurates a photograph of Hardeep Singh Nijjar and then goes on to say that he will move in a resolution inside the parliament calling for an official recognition of the Sikh genocide. But perhaps in his mind he is also upset because in 2013, when the Congress government was in power, he was denied a visa to visit India. because of his activities and because of his provocation of violence in India. So I think India will certainly take it very seriously, but India has also realized, just like we have ignored Pakistan for years together, we will ignore Canada. But whenever there are questions on the integrity, sovereignty of the country, of course the Foreign Ministry will raise the issue.
The Foreign Ministry will raise the issue, as Aditya said. But Ambassador Gupta, you know, this genocide label that Canada has been distributing around the world to countries it doesn't like very much, it's non-binding. It's the government of Canada can't do much about it, you know, beyond label someone, tar someone with this brush of genocide. But you know, the whole grandstanding of Canada in this respect of genocide, we declare this particular thing. How does that play out globally? You know, the fact that it's interesting that two other countries are in the same bracket in the recent past. China for the Uyghur, what they're doing, their treatment of the Uyghur minorities, and of course Russia with Ukraine. And now India is being bracketed in this club of China and Russia. What's your take on this?
You see, first of all, I said that government of India should protest.
Right.
But media should remain silent and should ignore it.
Right.
I did not say the government of India should not protest. Yes, we must protest. So that is one correction. Now, secondly, so far as the word genocide is concerned, you know, it's absolutely insane and misplaced, as I mentioned. Trudeau is absolutely incompetent as Prime Minister, as also a world leader. And therefore, I think his intention is basically firstly to survive with the support of NDP. And secondly, to give some sort of publicity to the people in NDP so that they can keep gaining some sympathy in Punjab and elsewhere around the world. So that is their purpose. And that purpose is served by getting good publicity around the world. So if the publicity is minimized, that purpose will not be served. You see, they want to make you and cry and tell the people that, okay, we have been able to gain sympathy around the world because of this. Newspaper articles have appeared, editorials have come out, you know, people have commented. Now, if that does not happen, they will not succeed in their, wrong designs. And that is what I mean, that the press and media should ignore, but the government should take all the firm actions. Absolutely. They should call their envoy, they should protest, they should take diplomatic measures. But I think media and press should ignore, like we did for Pakistan, and Pakistan has been put in its place. We should put Canada in its place by ignoring and by, completely bypassing what they do.
Absolutely. Pathikrit, is Canada the...
Sandeep, just a small rebuttal here. Yes. You know, we are not living in late 80s and early 90s, where we just shut our eyes and suddenly realize that things will be okay in a day or two. Pakistan was not ignored by the media. Pakistan was strategically ignored after the Pulwama terror attack and the Balakot strike as a calibrated strategy by New Delhi. Now the media, in times of social media, where we have videos all across, news breaking first on Twitter than anywhere else, we certainly in the media cannot ignore this. That too, something happening inside the parliament, where a government representative is raising questions on India.
A political party is going to take up a motion and declare a genocide. But Pathikrit, this point of the genocide, I mean, it's like the NDP is giving an idea of what's going to follow in the next 6 months. It's 6 months from now, you're going to observe the 40th anniversary of the Sikh riots. In fact, there are several other dubious such milestones there. We have the Operation Blue Star of 1984, 40th anniversary of that coming. So this 1984 40th anniversary is going to be a big mobilizing tool for the Khalistani separatists inside Canada. What's your take on this?
So Sandeep, I just want to add one point to what Aditya mentioned. See, in this era of social media where disinformation campaign runs like wild, I mean, if we remain silent, through those algorithms, those elements sitting in Canada and elsewhere will ensure that it reaches the mobile phone, your Twitter, your YouTube, your Facebook, of everybody. And if you remain silent, the young generation who may not have idea what happened then in the last decades, they would presume that silence of government and the media would misconstrue that as if this propaganda from Canada is almost the truth. So that is why countering is very important. Secondly, connect these things. When they use the word genocide, what they're trying to send a message is that it was state-sponsored. It was not a state-sponsored thing. The Home Minister of India, Mr. Amit Shah, stated that it was a politically motivated thing about which the whole country is concerned. And it was a very, very dark chapter of India. So what they would try to do this is that they would try to project as equalize it. They will draw the equivalence with what the Nazis did with the Jews. That is their objective. So unlike the fact that you have Sikh community people in the highest positions of India, government positions for so many decades, and even today, the top generals of the country, mostly in many cases, are from the Sikh community. So the thing is that they would connect it with genocide, they would connect it with the referendum, they would connect it that, look, this is what India is, and the ulterior objective, and would not just be of Canada, but a larger deep state, to say that, look, this is what India is, so don't invest in India. This is what India is, you must impose sanctions. This is what India is, India should be disbanded. So this is how they would create indirect pressure on others on India, and this is how the hybrid war is played out. So I think even the NDP is a part of the larger game, and that is why it is important to counter.
Absolutely, very important to counter that, as Pathikrit was saying, Aditya. Hybrid war, that's a expression that comes to mind often when you look at how Canada has been playing this out over the last couple of years, giving giving refuge to Khalistani separatists, and now this thing of declaring 1984 as Sikh genocide. How do you see this playing out this year?
Ultimately it's a battle of narratives. As Pathikrit mentioned, not just on Twitter, but all across the social media, even on newspapers, we see how the line of the state is often used by the BBC in UK, for instance, the CBC in Canada. We've seen recently a documentary made by the CBC in which a very brutal visuals are being used, which were not made available earlier. So the question right now is that why shouldn't Indian government react? Indian government will certainly react. Indian government will put out its perspective on how the Canadian government is looking the other way, when the law of the land needs to act against criminals, gangsters, and now they're paying, for remaining silent. Because there are gang wars taking place in Canada. There are gangsters who have taken shelter, and the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or the Canadian intelligence is not able to act against them. And this will certainly be something that the domestically Canadians will suffer from in the next few years. So Justin Trudeau, while he runs up to the elections next year, will have to keep this in mind. Will he continue to, in fact, play this game of being soft towards separatists and terrorists, not acting against them, or will he redefine his politics in the coming months?
Very important points there, and Aditya always comes back to haunt the snakes in the backyard.
That's right.
And Trudeau is doing exactly what Pakistan did for several years, and it actually lived to regret that. But thank you very much, Ambassador Gupta and Pathikrit, for joining us this evening, and my colleague Aditya Raj Kaul. We've been following that story for several months now, the deterioration ties between India and Canada, and this latest move by the NDP, a key ally of the ruling government in Canada, to declare the Sikh riots of 1984 a genocide.